Forbes, that super jacked guy.
Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Even as these grainy satellite images released today by the Chinese government.
Again, the Malaysian flight too was one shot at China saying knock it off.
Why shoot it down though if it's not hostile?
Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Why the Americans would?
They leave distance annihilated.
This country is very powerful. Far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world. Not even close.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Woo-wee! Welcome. Free Energy Friday live stream chat. I can feel the energy. I can feel the energy in the chat. Welcome, Gabriel Diaz, to the chat. Guys, I know you want to talk about free energy, unlimited abundance. That's why you guys are here tonight. But before that, chat, check out my dog. Lulu got onto the couch all by herself, chat. Her butt infection is healing. Things are going well. Lulu is proof of life, chat. Proof of life. Okay, guys, let's get down to it. What are we talking about tonight? Well, obviously, we're going to be doing a live stream, live watch party of the Tim Ventura Charles Chase interview. If you do not know who Charles Chase was the former the leader of the Revolutionary Technologies Division of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, top 0.0001% of the Lockheed Martin engineers. Basically, he's in the mafia. He's in the club, chat. And he knows all the free energy engineers and microchips and everything. So, exciting stuff. Before we get to that, we got a few other things that we got to address. We got some politics we got to talk about. Your favorite part of the live stream. I know you guys tell me all the time in the comments. You say, Ashton, you say, please talk more about politics. You're so good at it. We love it. Of course I will. Of course I will. Chat, the other day, I woke up. I was getting ready for work. And I opened up and I saw this. I said, wow, this is a cool rave. Look at these women. These women at this rave, and they're shooting hearts out to the DJ. And they're going, we love you, DJ. We love you. And I was like, wow, that's so heartwarming. And then I realized that's not what they're doing. They're actually out here supporting a triple murderer. What?
To Lindsey, it's a mental health. I don't know if you'll ever have this many women in one place at one time who may understand all of us on a level that others don't. So,
chat. We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it, chat. I'm looking at this. First of all, I'm wondering, honestly, the very first thought that came to my mind when I watched all these women out here supporting a woman who strangled her children to death was, are these Candace Owens followers? That was my absolute first thought, was that these women are definitely the wine moms waiting to watch Candace Owens, waiting to find out the new twist in the TPUSA true crime documentary that Candace Owens is running. That was my first thought. My second thought was, why are they all wearing like pink? This is actually reminds me, this is actually alarming me. No joke, this is mass formation psychosis. The only time I've seen this is Black Lives Matter, COVID, and then recently with the weird Israel killed Charlie Kirk thing. Because these people are just basing their whole world view entirely on feelings. That this woman is not responsible for the actions that she did because, like, the doctors in the world let her down, or that, like, they gave her, drugs that made her go crazy. No agency whatsoever in their decisions. And I look at this and I say, from the free energy perspective, how could we ever give somebody like this free energy? Somebody irrational like this is going to destroy us all. In fact, chat, I love women. I am not a bigot. I believe that people can be whatever they want to be and just do whatever they want to do. But I will say, the Salem witch trials did nothing wrong. I will say the Salem witch trials did nothing wrong. I will die on that hill. Because clearly they were ill-equipped to deal with whatever this is back in the 1600s. The only thing they could do to deal with this is they had to burn people at the stake. That was the logical course of action. And it didn't make sense to me before. I'll always admit when I'm wrong. I thought the Salem witch trials were cruel and unusual, made no sense. Now I go, maybe they do make a little sense. Maybe there was some rationality behind it. Now, chat, you are going to believe this. The first thing that people did when this started making the rounds was they looked at Candace's old clips. Can you imagine what I'm about to play right now?
I made my thoughts clear on this the moment that she was arrested, the moment that it made the news. Lindsey Clancy is obviously not guilty. There are a fleet of doctors who should be imprisoned for what they put her on. I regularly speak out against Big Pharma. They get away with murder all the time. And in this case, they are getting away with the murder of really her 3 children, but also completely destroyed her life.
Obviously not guilty, quote unquote, obviously not guilty. By the way, the real amazing part of this clip that people don't know, this is from 2 weeks ago. So this brain rot actually could have contributed to the psychosis we are seeing right now with these women. Because Candace is out here just going, she's obviously not guilty to her 8 million followers. And everyone's going, yeah, it's the drugs that did it. The drugs made her do it. She doesn't have any agency. Holy crap, Chad. Thank you for the raid. Woke Society is my man. Okay. We're not going to harp on this too much, guys. But I will say the black pills that we've been doling out the last couple weeks, I have to say, CIA, I get you now. I didn't understand why they were hiding free energy. I said, we could have free energy. We could be solving all the world's problems with free energy right now. But no, of course they can't give it to us. I mean, look at the mass formation psychosis that is regularly going on in our society now. And then, if you want to get political, you could even add people just choosing to change their gender to that list too. We have so many mental problems in our society. There's no way we can exist with free energy. Sucks. We're going to have to make our own breakaway civilization and leave these people behind. That's the only path forward. Now, I could harp more on Candace and her fake evidence and all that, but we'll leave that for Twitter. Let's focus on some fun stuff. Let's bring this up. You know, I like to look around the internet and I like to see the pseudo celebrities and I like to engage with everybody. You guys know that about me. I'm not shy, and that's why I get my troll reputation, which is it's earned. I'm a good ass troll, chat. I was born in the darkness. I was raised by it, molded by it. Most of you simply adopted the internet. I'm somebody that was there at the beginning. I know what people are like. This shocked me. This is Corral Feynman, chat. Corral! Where's your mom, Corral? And you'll see why that applies actually here in a second. Let's go ahead and read this. Richard Feynman, my father. First of all, never live in your parents' shadow. Never live in your parents' shadow. Always be your own person. And that sometimes that can be that you do the thing that your parents did, that your dad did, that your mom did. And sometimes it's not. The point is that it's something that you want to do and you want to be and that you're interested in, not the things that your parents were interested in. Anyway, my father divided perpetual motion machines into perpetual motion machines of the first kind, which violated the first law of thermodynamics, the second kind, which violated the second law of thermodynamics, and other perpetual motion machines, which somehow get their energy from other laws of physics. I didn't really know exactly where this was going, this whole whatever this is going to be, but I could tell at the beginning here, this was starting to feel a little NPC-ish. Now, I'll explain why. When it comes to free energy, if you can get around the first law, you've gotten around all of them. First law of thermodynamics is that energy is not created or destroyed, so you can't get energy from nothing. But I'm going to go ahead and say that we can. We can get around this law. I mean, it's still true, but the quantum fluctuations, the 0-point energy is another energy source. It's a whole nother energy source. So therefore, it gets around the first law because we are creating energy from something that you think is nothing, the vacuum. This gets around the second law automatically. So it doesn't even make sense to be dividing free energy devices into these categories like this. It shows that whoever was dividing them into these categories doesn't even really understand the concept of 0-point energy or free energy. And that's why you don't see me dividing them into arbitrary categories like this that violates the certain laws of thermodynamics. And something you're going to hear Charles Chase say today is that he says the laws of physics are not some immutable thing that can't be violated. They're just what we came up with to describe the effects that we see. If there's an effect out there that's rare, that requires certain conditions, then that could be something that we just simply haven't discovered. Okay, I'll go on. The second kind is rarer. The only example I'm familiar with is one that my dad showed me plans for. Once in a while, someone would come to him with a perpetual motion machine prospectus and ask if I was a good investment. So the second law of thermodynamics essentially says that no closed system can be perfectly efficient. And this is why I love to ask the question, if you live by the laws of thermodynamics, then how is an atom stable? No system can be perfectly efficient. Energy can't be created or destroyed. So how is an atom stable? How in your worldview with your physics can an atom be stable? Anyway. So if no system can be perfectly efficient, then there should be no way to have over unity. There should be no way to produce free energy based on the second law. One of these machines that claim to extract heat energy from the air and run a generator with it. Now, this is interesting, right? Because this is actually a free energy device that uses Brownian motion. It's extracting heat energy, right? If you're extracting heat energy, you're using Brownian motion, just like Paul Thibodeau's microchip. Paul Thibodeau made a free energy microchip that works like an endless battery that changes the equilibrium point from 0 to something above 0 using the electron drift velocity of graphene. They had built half the machine, which worked as far as they could test it, and were looking for gullible investors to pay for finishing it. When you start throwing charged language like that around, now I'm starting to realize, okay, you really don't know what you're talking about here. By carefully going over the immensely complex plans, my father and I found a heat exchanger. Ooh, I might crack my voice. Was supposed to take warm freon and cool air and produce hot freon and cold air. Naturally, this heat exchanger was a as yet unbuilt portion. So what he's saying here is that there was some portion of this machine that was impossible, that wasn't going to be able to be possible, and that was never built or something like that. Okay, whatever, who cares? Those other perpetual motion machines get their energy from here toward fake physics, like cold fusion, vacuum fluctuations, or new secret physical laws that will be disclosed only on the payment of $1 million. So now he's taking shots. Oh, Lulu just hit the camera, guys. 1 sec. Come on, girl. Out. Okay. Crap. 1 sec, guys. Okay, we're back. So, this part I find wild because vacuum fluctuations, his father won the Nobel Prize for Quantum Electrodynamics, QED. So his father, what Charles Chase, I think, is going to say in this interview we're going to watch in a few minutes, is that the Casimir effect and the Lamb shift actually don't even prove the vacuum fluctuations are real. But that if you believe in quantum mechanics, then you must have vacuum fluctuations. I think he says that. Don't quote me. We're going to find out if I'm right about that. But if true, that makes this the most ironic statement ever. Your dad won the Nobel Prize for quantum electrodynamics, and you're claiming that vacuum fluctuations aren't real? You can't extract energy from them? Okay. Well, then explain why the Casimir effect shows a force, or explain why helium-3 doesn't freeze at 0 degrees. Because we're saying we've pulled all the energy out, but work is happening. Work is occurring. Okay. Now, this is probably the most egregious part here. Back in 1970, my father went to a public demonstration of one of those other perpetual motion machines. So he's saying he went to one that was extracting vacuum fluctuations. He discovered an electric cord was running out of the back of the machine plugged into the wall. When he unplugged the machine and pointed out to the inventor that the perpetual motion machine had been plugged in, wasn't really perpetual, the inventor pushed a button on a control panel and the machine exploded. Several spectators were severely injured. I believe one man lost an arm. The inventor sued my father on the grounds that he had caused the explosion. My father suspected that the explosion was deliberate. The trial ended up with my father not having to pay. Now, you know what I found interesting about this? Go back to the Tom Vallone interview. He mentioned the HAP engine. He didn't say HAP, he said PAP. Tom Vallone mentioned this to me. This was the PAP energy device. Somebody died from this. And do you know whose fault it was? Richard Feynman's. This story, this representation right here is all fake. It's all wrong and it's all fake. His father caused that. Richard Feynman, the guy that we idolize, caused the guy's death. He pulled a cord out of a machine that was in progress, and it exploded and killed a man. That's the facts of the case. And Caltech did settle. They lost. They settled with the guy, and they paid Pap. So if he caused his own explosion, if there was even any evidence of that, they wouldn't have settled with him. So that's the true story of it. When you actually go, you can go fact check it right now if you want. Now, maybe I'm wrong because, you know, these are stories where we don't really have a lot of like actual physical evidence in front of us and I haven't dig deep into it. But look, I get trying to defend your father and you were a kid and you remember things differently or whatever. But like whatever this is cringe. It's wrong. It shows that he doesn't understand physics at all. And then when you make up a fake story about where your dad was actually liable for a man's death and you try to blame it on the other guy and you try to use that as evidence for why free energy devices are fake, that's just really messed up, man. That's not how your father would have acted. Your father was an intelligent man that taught himself, that understood that the standard perception and view that the public has is not necessarily how things really work. And he would have never made a post like this, not in a million years. One more comment I want to point out on the Lindsey Clancy thing. I got one more thing to say about the Corral Feynman thing. These women are saying that the husband's guilty because he's a Gemini. They're like, you can't trust a Gemini, dude. She's a Leo. She would never do this. She's a lion. She's the Gemini did. She lured the husband out of the house and then took her time with 3 children. Anyway, it's dark stuff, man. We live in dark times. So let's talk about free energy then. Let's not just troll people and put people down. Let's talk about actual free energy. How do we prove free energy? How do we show free energy is possible? You guys know the answer. The ground state of the hydrogen atom. So that question that I just posed on Twitter, which was, okay, if free energy is not possible, if it's not true, then let's take it down to the smallest scale, the smallest macroscopic scale, the atom. We can see atoms. So we take it down to the smallest possible scale. How do atoms work? Are atoms little perpetual motion machines? Or are atoms, is something else going on? How are atoms stable? Because atoms have an electron cloud around them. If you believe, let's start with our view, the right view, 0-point energy view. The 0-point energy view would say that the ground state of the hydrogen atom, Hal Puthoff's 1987 paper, the GOAT, Hal Puthoff, would say that every atom is sitting in a bath of energy, 0-point energy, space juice. And it's radiating energy, and it's also absorbing energy so that it stays in a perfect equilibrium state. This equilibrium state we call the ground state. We currently think it's the lowest possible energy state. But in theory, that could be lower if we're right. So this is huge. This perspective is huge because it answers the question. It then says spin, quantum spin, is physical. It can now actually be real spin. It doesn't have to be make-believe spin anymore. We can now say that, yes, on the small scales, things work the same as on the big scales. Why is this important? Scale invariance. What is it that I preach, that we preach? That the things that are very big can be made very small, and the things that are very small can be made very big. Scale invariance. So let's read through some of the criticisms and some of the arguments that people make on Twitter. I thought some people made some good ones that were out there. Let me go through some of the replies. Tom Montauk. Shout out to Tom Montauk, guys. I've been trying to get him on the stream again, or on the show again. He says, in case a skeptic invokes quantum mechanics saying that electrons are in orbitals that are stationary states, meaning the expectation value of their positron doesn't change with time, hence they're not really moving, therefore not radiating, then just bring up that electrons truly circulate perpetually in a superconducting ring. Thank you, Tom Montauk. Now, you see, chat, this is why we pose the questions on Twitter. Because there was actually good back and forth in the replies here that you guys should read over so that you can understand the classical view and why it makes no sense. And Tom Montauk says they're going to come and they're going to say that the electron's not even really moving. That it's just like in some quantum frozen state. And that because it's in a quantum frozen state, it's not doesn't need to radiate any energy. And therefore, we don't have to worry about where it's getting its energy from. Okay, well, number one, if that's the case, that's a perpetual motion machine. You're basically saying, okay, it's a perpetual motion machine and it's just going forever and it's in a perfect state, never to be disturbed. Which, that's possible. That's a viewpoint that you can have. But that viewpoint, the perception that the atom is in this perpetual motion that is perfectly stable, that only works if you're in an empty vacuum, a voidless vacuum. Because otherwise, you're going to be bumping into things all the time. You're going to be having interactions all the time. And your little perfect stability is not going to be very stable anymore. So this perception of this perfect quantum stability state falls apart if the vacuum is a roiling ocean of energy. And spoiler alert, we know that it is. So let's see what people say here. And then here's a good follow-up. These people say that, okay, sure, it's a perpetual motion machine. This is actually a fun conversation because people come back and they say, okay, fine. It's a perpetual motion machine and it's spinning around perfectly and it never stops, but you can't extract work off of it. It's not a free energy device because you can't pull energy out of it. You can't squeeze the electron orbital and get energy out of it. That's what they're saying. First of all, we're saying, yes, you can. First of all, we're saying, yes, you can. That's actually exactly what Randall Mills is saying. Randall Mills of Brilliant Light Power is saying there are fractionalized quantum states that are stable states where you can shrink the electron orbital. That's what Randall Mills is saying. And he actually claims to have the spectrometry and calorimetry data that supports it. So I'm just going to say that. I'm not saying that, but people are saying that. Second of all, hey, alien girl, nice to see you. As Tom Montauk says, that's a separate argument. The first argument that we're making is that what is your perception of an atom? You think it's this frozen thing that's just perfectly stable. Anybody touches it, it's going to crack, but it's fine because it's in an empty void. And I'm saying no. An atom is a spinning, swirling sea of energy. And it's actually spinning, just like on the large scales. And it's radiating energy and it's absorbing energy from the 0-point energy background. The perpetual motion argument, that's a separate one. Can we pull energy from it? Can we get net excess energy? Well, if I were you all, I would not bank on no. Why would I not bank on no? Because we're about to do it with fusion. The question is simply, where do you draw the boundaries on your system? And what you're going to find is that the moment you include 0-point energy into the equations, your system is now an open system that includes an infinite reservoir, potentially infinite reservoir of energy. That's why free energy is real. That's why it's not a myth. Is it easy to pull off? No, clearly no. Or many people would have done it already publicly and not be killed. But some have pulled it off. I guarantee you some have pulled it off. Let's see any other arguments in here. The ether. People seem to forget, especially the ones that are condescending about free energy not being possible, that essentially all the fathers of electromagnetism, and honestly even Einstein himself for a while, depending on the time frame, also believed in a medium. In fact, I'll pull this up. This is a quote. I'll just read it, actually. Too much work. A quote from Nikola Tesla. I saw this on Ken Wheeler's Substack. He makes really good arguments about light. That light is actually a disturbance in the medium. We've been looking at light all wrong this whole time. We've been thinking of it as particles, but it's actually just waves, disturbances in the medium. Tesla said, think about this. Why can't I? There we go. Light propagates with the same velocity, irrespective of the source. Such constancy can only be explained by that it is solely dependent upon the properties of the medium, especially its density and elasticity. Tesla was saying the reason why the speed of light is the same everywhere is because it's a property of the medium, not a property of the source. We keep thinking that light is a property of the source, but it's a property of the medium. That's the answer. How simple. Now, I think I want to pivot to the conditioned electromagnetic beam before we go into before we go into the live stream on here. Just to see, is there any other questions, though? And the superconductivity analogy is so good because in superconductivity, the electrons are moving around. So if they try to say that there's this frozen quantum state, well, you say, then how come I see it on the macroscopic level in superconductivity and you admit the electrons are moving in superconductivity? Right? So there's no way they can argue against that there is a perpetual motion, an aspect of perpetual motion to atoms, to electromagnetism, because we see it. Now, can you pull infinite energy out of it? I'm going to argue yes. And Charles Chase is going to argue yes. Why? Because the vacuum fluctuations exist. That's a source of energy. And all we have to do is make a waterfall, an asymmetry. That just means that it's not the same on both sides, an asymmetry. And if we can make an asymmetry at the quantum level, we can make an infinite battery. Now, last thought on the Corral Feynman. Corral, why'd you blow up the machine, Corral? Maybe Corral blew up the machine, chat. Maybe he just pinned it on his father. One of the reasons why the device could have exploded, I don't know all the details of the PAP device and the situation and what happened, but one of the ways the device could have exploded is if he cut off the connection to the capacitor that was offloading the energy. Do you guys understand? If you are producing free energy, what you're doing is you're pulling energy out of the quantum vacuum. In essence, you are creating energy, but not really. You're just pulling it out of the vacuum. That energy has to go somewhere. So this is why these devices are connected to batteries. It's not because they need to run off the battery. It's because they need to drain the excess energy that they're pulling. If you're not using it, it's got to go somewhere. So you either use it right now or you put it to the capacitor. That's why they're connected to batteries. They have to be. Unless you have perfectly figured out the amount of input energy versus output energy, you need to have it connected to some kind of capacitor to offload the excess energy. This is why I say, and you guys can go back to when I was talking about the EtherTech device, magnetic motor. This is why you have to figure out, are you connecting it to the grid so that you can off-put the excess energy? Or how are you going to off-put that excess energy? Otherwise, you're going to have an explosion on your hands. Chat. I worry about humans. I really do. Now, who wants to know how to make a gravity beam? Chat. If I don't get at least 5 thumbs up in the chat emojis, I'm not teaching you how to make gravity beams. I was going to ask for $100, but I don't even want your money. I don't even want your money, chat. I just want your praise. I just want your accolades. I just want you to tell me you love me, chat. Tell me it's all worthwhile. Thank you. Thank you for the 5 thumbs up. Appreciate it, guys. I'm about right now. I'm ready. This is where I'm at right now with society. I'm so black-pilled. I'm ready to go take some ice out of the freezer and go make a TikTok video of myself throwing it in the tub to let off all my violent urges, chat. Dark Ashton wants to come out. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the support and the love. I know I'm stunning and brave. I know, chat. I'll get that TikTok video out there for you guys. You guys can all emoji on it and tell me how stunning and brave I am. Thank you. Okay. I will give you the secrets now to conditioned electromagnetic fields. It's actually super, super simple. The answer is simply an undulator. Remember that undulator? That counter-propagating positive and negative magnetic fields? I'm just saying positive, negative. You get the idea? The polarity? That's the secret. Why? Because you can twist the phase of the electromagnetic beam. The secret is very similar to what Tom Bearden was saying when it comes to scalar physics. He's saying electromagnetic beams are just waves. Well, what if we cancel 2 waves out? Is there still nothing there? That was close. But you take it a step further and you say, what if we twist the phase of our electromagnetic beam? Well, how do you do that? How do you twist the phase of the electromagnetic beam? Well, when it comes to fusion and a particle accelerator, a fusion reactor, you force the particles down the path you want them to go. And that's what you use the undulator for. The undulator forces them into a sinusoidal path that you want them to follow. That ion pumpy thing for Ashton, that was the general, chat. That was the general, or that was somebody that's chilling with the general right now. Because, it's too on the nose. So where's my post? Let me just read my post because I don't want to spell it all out. Oh, yeah, here we go. Secret to anti-gravity. The secret to anti-gravity is scalar longitudinal waves as discovered by Ampere and ignored as a mathematical convenience. All true. All true. This is the craziest crap. Ampere figured this out 150 years ago or something? Long time ago. And we've just been ignoring it because we're like, nah, it's just mathematical. The A vector potential is just a mathematical convenience. It doesn't do anything. Is there a lot of stuff in physics that doesn't do anything? The A vector potential. The A vector potential twists space-time the same way magnetic fields twist charged particles. So therefore, a conditioned electromagnetic beam can create a gravitational effect by structuring the phase gradient so that it mimics the frame dragging of a rotating mass. And so I asked AI, like, what kind of shape would you use to mimic the frame dragging of rotating mass? An undulator or a helix can twist the phase, forcing the electrons onto that sinusoidal path so that it carries the coherent A vector potential that you need, that you want. Notice the helix shape comes into play here. Now do you understand? Do you understand why all these gravity beam devices in free energy devices are using helix shapes, counter-propagating spin, and undulators? Because they're all, if they don't know, they're creating conditioned electromagnetic beams. They found the way to manipulate space-time. Maybe some of them know it, maybe some of them don't. But they're coupling electromagnetism to gravity. That's what that means. Change the phase of the beam, turn the electromagnetic beam into a gravity beam, and you've coupled electromagnetism to gravity. And once you've done that, now it does go simply back to Tom Montauk's question. It's not a question of, can a perpetual motion machine exist? We know we can make a machine that moves forever. The question is, can we get over unity out of it? Can we get over unity out of it? Can we get an infinite energy machine that can do work and run forever on top of that? Not a simple thing to do. And so people would say, here's a good question. I get the question about 1,000 times a day. Why have you not built something? First thing I tell you is I would love to build something simple and cheap that could convince everybody. But that's not in the cards. The simple and cheap stuff, relatively simple, relatively cheap magnetic motor type stuff, doesn't convince anybody. There's about 100 videos of magnetic motors, and unfortunately about 95% of them are fake, but the 5% of them that are real, you're not going to convince anybody. You could do a 50-state tour and you'll convince no one. There is no demonstration you can do to convince Corral Feynman that free energy is real. Listen to what he said in that post. There's no demonstration you could ever possibly do. And if you want real, free, undeniable free energy that's applicable and commercial, like something you can sell to people in today's day and age, it should be obvious what it is. A free energy microchip that goes in your phone. That's the commercial product. A free energy microchip that goes in your phone and your phone runs forever. It's undeniable. You don't need to demonstrate anything to anybody. The moment that I have a phone that doesn't have to be charged anymore, I don't even have to ask the question on how. I don't give a shit. Now I can jerk off on the internet 24/7 and never have to plug in my phone anymore. Every single Redditor is going to love that. That's the answer forward. And the downside to that, if you haven't been paying attention, is that getting microchips built is a pretty limited thing. Number one, extremely expensive. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. Number two, there's not a lot of facilities that can do it. The reason why Gary Stevenson can do it is because he's got all the connections. Because he's probably a black project engineer himself. You think you're just going to roll up and get some microchips made? Good luck. Are you good with fabrication labs? Do you have the connections? No. So the reason why I don't build anything is because I'm doing exactly what I was put on this earth for. I'm in my comfort zone right here, chat. I'm talking to my people. I'm explaining free energy. I'm getting information out to hundreds, if not thousands of people much faster and more efficiently than if I built anything. That's what I realized like 2 years ago. And I said, why am I trying to start a company doing free energy magnetic motors? Nah. Waste of time. let's get to the main event. What you all have been waiting for. Let me just see if I missed anything else. One last thing that's on my mind. Where is it? Crap. What's his name, guys? Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge spoke up. UAP James. I was close. I can't believe this, chat. I thought this was from years ago. I thought there's no way somebody got Tom DeLonge answering a UFO question. Guy's like been in hiding. He's hanging out at Comic-Con. This is right now. He's at Comic-Con.
I'd love to get your opinion on the declassified UAP files we've gotten in the last few years, just because I think you're an interesting person to talk about that.
It's a big deal. I'm an active consultant on all of that stuff right now with the U.S. government, and there's a lot more coming. This is just beginning.
I'd love to get your opinion on the declassified UAP files we've gotten in the last few years, just because I think you're...
Bro. The general is missing. The general that got you connected to the whole UFO topic vanished, and no one knows where he is, and there's no footage of him even leaving his house. And you're at Comic-Con, and you're like, I'm a consultant right now on the UFO files that are being released. Chat, where's the Lindsey Clancy fan club? Sign me up. You know what? I don't even want to fight this psychosis at this point. Yep, guys, the aliens are coming. Aliens are coming. Government's gonna tell us anytime now. Tom DeLonge is our savior. Don't ask any questions. Generals just disappear. I'm sure he just went on a hike and said, you know what? I don't want to be on this earth anymore. Didn't want to tell his wife. Makes perfect sense. Oh my goodness. Okay. Charles Chase, please rescue me, sir. Please rescue me from this. Also, last thought before we go to this is maybe Travis Taylor is a good liar. Maybe Travis Taylor is a good liar. Maybe he really is on the inside. I can't get a beat on Travis Taylor. I think it's just impossible for him not to know. It's impossible for him not to know, and he's a smart enough guy that he could be a good liar. He could be a smart enough guy that he could be a good liar. Beware of the guy at the poker table, guys, that comes in and looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. Beware of that guy the most. My favorite character to play when I would go to the poker table would be the guy that's like, oh, this is my first time at the table. How's it going, everybody? You know, that's careful, chat. Time for the GOAT. Here we go. Charles Chase, the absolute GOAT. I ask every day, why is this not my father? No disrespect to my dad. I like my dad. Love him even. But I would basically do a fight club, hang outside Charles Chase's doorstep, just sleep on the sleeping bag just until he opens the door and says, you've waited long enough, young Padawan, young Four Orbs. Come in and be my disciple. Basically, I want to know everything this guy's ever known. I want to know all the secrets. And I'm, just between us, this is just between us, guys. I'm 100% convinced this dude's on some alien shit. He's into some alien type shit, as the kids would say. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. Okay, and we're going to get into it. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tim. Yeah, it's great to be
this
here.
up?
It's a pleasure to talk with you.
You are one of the few people who is out there doing truly cutting-edge work that blurs the boundaries between breakthrough science and breakthrough engineering, right? A lot of folks are kind of...
Chat, I wish I could just touch him right here. Just be close to him. Just feel his presence. Okay, too weird.
Firmly planted in one area or the other. But I love the work that you're doing because you're crossing those lines. You're saying, okay, here is the latest science, and we're going to put this into a workable form. And that's really an extension of your career work at Skunkworks. So,
yeah, thanks. So, yeah, I've always had a desire or been driven to work at the edge, but at the edge that had a scientific basis and grounding, and then turn that into.
Bro, by the way, chat, you may say you're being weird as hell. He's a secret 4-orbsy, chat. Charles Chase is a secret 4-orbsy. No one can convince me otherwise. He tried to hide it in this interview, but it came out. And I am so excited right now. So excited. We just want to learn from you, sir. We just want to learn the secrets. We want to learn the ways. Let us into the club. We will smite all the Lindsey Chansley supporters that you require us to smite. Just tell us what we have to do. We're ready to get our hands dirty.
Do real engineering and do the work you need to see if something is real or not. You know,
Yeah.
so I have I keep a very open mind about things, and but also.
By the way, real talk. I will fight Professor Dave in one of those boxing matches they do on the streaming things. This is true, 100% true. You can hold me to this. I will literally fight him, chat, just for the honor of Charles Chase. And anybody else who dares disrespect this man, also fight them too. Fight any and all of them in those brand risk. I'm a brand risk, chat. That's my name.
Want to make sure it's proven and real at the same time. And so, like my group at the Skunk Works, we were happy if 10% of what we were working on came to fruition. That was success.
Okay. Yeah. So not everything that gets attempted materializes as an end product, but like you said, that 10% that does, that's the breakthrough. That's transformative.
Right. Something that can, really help people and change the world. So even when I was at the Skunk Works, which of course is a defense company, I was always trying to do things that could also help humanity in addition to, supporting the Lockheed. But,
we have to listen to this. We have to get into his mind, chat. We have to understand what makes Charles Chase tick. And in this particular case, we're learning that he was in the defense contract, but he had a bleeding heart lib on the inside, chat. And he always wanted to do good things.
Things that could help people. And like we've taken on at the UNLab, the people, the planet, and the biome, really.
Does he make weapons of death that destroy and kill people? Yes. But he also saves. He kills and he saves, chat. Balance in all things.
Trying to help things and do good things.
Well, what is it that you are currently engaged in? I have a big list of projects, some of those, past, present, and historical. And again, I have a massive slide deck. I'm really excited to be able to put that up for the audience. But
I pretty much guarantee that he helped make that discombobulator thing that we made those people bleed out of their eyes and stuff, by the way. That seems like a Charles Chase kind of thing.
What is it that you are working on right now? And what are you most excited about going into the second half of this year?
So there's a few things. I know we're going to discuss the vacuum fluctuation propulsion work that I've been working for quite a while. Still very excited about that, of course. And, we're making some good progress in doing the experiments. Also the idea that had with my colleague Mo Arman about a coherent matter beam and how to put matter into coherence, kind of like you do with a laser, is very exciting. And I've always been drawn to that. But, I must say that the thing I'm excited the most about is a sort of a new project, and it's this idea of household resilience. So what are technologies that we can develop, that are fairly simple and straightforward that can help people in disasters or, with climate disruption, and so that households like mine, people that we're lucky enough to have a decent house, but, how are we going to survive when there's a hurricane or this or that? And so there's some technologies we're working that can really help with that. And so I'm pretty excited about that sort of push into.
Oh, I should have said, guys, shout out to Tim Ventura. I'll put a link in the chat here for you guys. Make sure you guys watch the live stream. We're watching it on fast speed. And I will kind of give you any summaries of the key points here. But go ahead and check it out. Follow. Which channel is this on? Oh, it's on his Tim Ventura channel. Follow Tim Ventura on his channel. Watch the APAC conferences. I mean, he gets the best interviews. So there you go.
This household resiliency through simple technologies.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And that's off my list. I just have to go from kind of memory and other things that I've read about that. But one of the things that my research has been showing me lately is, and not a surprise to anyone, global climate change does seem to be happening. Who caused that? I don't know. And that's a topic for.
Oh, chat. Why are they all obsessed with climate change, chat? I'm going to have to debate. I'm going to have to debate Tom Valone on this climate change thing. We got to put this thing to bed, chat. We got to come out. We got to let them know. If free energy is real, climate change is honestly just the dumbest thing ever. I mean, it's not that you know what? Sure, we're changing the climate. You know what? Well, I'll even give you that point. But it's just like we can fix it so easily. It seems like such a silly thing to be worried about.
For another time.
Okay,
but
let's get ahead here.
Like myself, I tend to.
People maybe do a disservice to everybody if, assuming that you have to simplify things very, all the way. But I think people can really, when you get into the meat of it, it's very understandable. I am not a
coherent.
I don't have a PhD. I'm kind of self-taught. So if I can understand it, I feel like, and explain it, I feel like pretty much anyone can. But I want to say, we don't pay much attention to our website, unfortunately, so we haven't updated that in a long time. The YouTube channel with all the talks are really.
So I would like to put up my screen share now. I am really excited about this. What I tried to do was create some visualizations for the audience so that they would just intuitively understand some of the ideas that you're working on. One of these, the first one up here on the screen, is the coherent matter wave beam. For people who are hearing about this for the first time, what are you trying to create?
Yeah, so we're trying to put particles like electrons or atoms in phase together like a laser. So a laser works, with photons, which is light, by having them all be the same phase. In other words, all marching together at the same time and, all coherent, all at the same, instead of it, multiple different phases or just not lined up. So we're trying to line that all up. But instead of doing that with photons, to do that with particles, which are called fermions versus bosons, and fermions are not known, they cannot occupy the same state like a photon can. But we think we've figured out a way, and it's really thanks to my colleague I mentioned before, Dr. Mo Arman, who I worked with at Lockheed, who originally came up with this idea and then we refined it. But it's a novel way of putting particles into coherence, which no one has ever been able to do before. People.
Chat. I feel like this is what I just said. How different is this than what I just said is how you change an electromagnetic beam? He's saying here, we want to take particles, we want to put them into phase, get them all lined up. And he's about to basically say that what we think of as matter is actually waves. Even though it doesn't seem that way, it really is. So this should be possible.
I must say, people do make what's called a Bose-Einstein condensate, which is at super low temperatures, like almost absolute zero. You can make a single quantum state of particles. And so, why would we want that? Why do we want to do this? Is that, think of a beam that is 1,000,000 times more powerful than a laser, which would have obvious applications. But I think.
So why is what he just said there so important? If I want to make a gravitational beam, like I just told you guys, getting something that's 1,000,000 times more powerful than a laser, it doesn't get us there, but it gets us a lot further. It's going to be a lot easier if we can do it with matter than if we guys have to do it with lasers. Might be possible with lasers still, but point is, we're trying to get every little inch of energy density that we can get so that we can manipulate space-time. And this is another mechanism that pushes us up a lot. According to Charles Chase, 1,000,000 times. That's 6 layers. So yes, this is basically a GOI beam. This is a GOI beam. When they talk about directed energy weapons and all that crazy stuff, this is what they're talking about.
Even more exciting to me, and I think since the last time we talked, we've been focusing more on this area, which is enabling new chemistry. So by controlling the phase of atoms, we can make them combine in different ways. And so, all molecules are waves. We think of them as particles, but they're actually.
Wait. Stop there. Pause, chat. Wait, if we can control the phase of particles, we can do chemistry. We can get them to combine in different ways. How is this different than fusion? How is this different than fusion, chat? Feels very, very similar. In fact, I'm trying to figure out if you can do that, why can't you just do it with fusion too? Why can't you reduce the Coulomb barrier if you have some kind of magical way where you can like do chemistry super easily? Just logically in my mind, I feel like it should make fusion easier because it's basically the same thing. Okay. Yeah, okay. People, okay, I'm not the only one saying that, right? I just want to make sure I'm not crazy here. Because I hear that, I'm just thinking, this also seems like this can make fusion super, super easy. Also, this is alchemy we're talking about now. We're talking about alchemy now. Now it's like, why can't I just do Star Trek Replicator if I can do this? You can. 3D printing.
Ways people have measured waves of things like vitamins, of all things, right? So even very large atoms or molecules are waves, but by controlling the phase of those waves, we can make them combine in different ways that we currently can't do. So therefore, combining atoms, molecules together, that's chemistry. So we can make new things, and also enable deposition on a very fine, really small scale. Our calculations show down to 0.2 nanometers of resolution. So you can make new sort of structures and do like atomic assembly or atomic direct manufacturing. And so that's...
Yeah, so like he's already listed about 3 things that can get your patent classified or get you killed. We can make Star Trek replicators. We can make Goy beams that are maybe manipulate gravity with this thing. We can do microchip lithography. That's at a super, super tiny scale, potentially down to the atomic scale lithography. Yeah, all these things are, this is alien technology, chat. If you're looking for the alien technologies, here you go. Here it is.
Actually, doing that is easier than making a beam that maintains coherence over a long distance, because your working area for the new chemistry or for the deposition is a very small area. So we can maintain that coherence over that smaller area. And so I think that's it's a shorter putt than making an actual beam.
Okay. So I want to jump now. And again, we have a lot of slides to go through. So I'm going to go over to Casimir effect energy. Again,
This is like Charles Chase recapping the last 2 years of the Science Felony Physics live streams. Casimir cavity. Now we're just going to talk about Garrett Modell. We're just going to go through every single one of the engineers and their free energy microchips. Yes, we are. Here we go. Sweet. Okay, awesome. This is like chat. This episode of the Ash and Forbes Hard Truths podcast live stream, whatever we call this, I forget. This is basically those midway episodes in the animes, like episode 13.5, where it's like a rehash stream, except for it's even better because there's all original content. Okay, here we go.
Working on the cutting edge. This is amazing stuff. This is Dr. Harold Sonny White has just recently made headlines about this. Dr. Garrett Modell has been doing work, and you have been collaborating with both of them. So you are right at the heart of this, but you are looking at this a little bit differently than they are, right?
Yes. So, what you're showing there is illustrating the Casimir effect, which is, the way people talk about the Casimir effect is that in between a couple of plates, you don't have as many vacuum modes as you do outside. And since there are fewer modes inside the plate than outside, you generate a pressure that pushes the plates together, and that's called the Casimir effect. But, I really wanted to point out that the Casimir effect does not prove the existence of the vacuum fluctuations. Despite, people commonly say that. You ask ChatGPT, that's what it'll tell you. But you can come up with the Casimir effect or predict the Casimir effect using something called radiation reaction that you never use vacuum fluctuations at all. Same with other phenomena that people attribute to vacuum fluctuations, like what's called the Lamb shift, which is a frequency shift. You can
chat. It might be over, chat. Charles Chase just debunked us, chat. I can't take all the black pills, chat. There's too many black pills. Lindsey Chancey didn't kill her children. Chat, it's starting to get to me. He just told us. He just destroyed us, chat. He said the Lamb shift and the Casimir effect are not proof of 0-point energy. He said radiation reaction, whatever that means. We'll Google it later. He says that can explain it. Chat, we might be cooked. We might be cooked, chat.
Also calculate that with radiation reaction, not invoking the vacuum at all. Now, you cannot have the quantum electrodynamics theory that we use for predicting all this stuff. You need a bottom amount for that math to work. So for quantum electrodynamics to work, you need a fundamental fluctuation in that for the calculations to work. And they work to what 17.
We got rescued, chat. Quantum electrodynamics requires the fluctuations to exist. Woo! Chat, I was about to melt down, but wait a minute. Who invented quantum electrodynamics or whatever he just said? Hold on. Let's go find out, chat. This is very serious. We have to figure this out. Let me Google this for you. Quantum. Oh, wait. You guys don't see this. Hold on. Okay, let's Google this, chat. Quantum electrodynamics. Who figured this out? Let's see. Who's okay? Google. Let's see. Richard Feynman. Wow, chat. Richard Feynman is the one that figured out quantum electrodynamics, which requires the vacuum fluctuations to exist. So why the hell am I listening to his son, Richard Feynman's son, trying to tell me that vacuum fluctuations aren't real? Your dad is the one that proved they're real. Damn, turns out we didn't get dunked on. Turns out Charles Chase just came off the top row with the people's elbow for Corral Feynman. Damn, chat. I'm glad Charles Chase dropped this. This is why, like, the Eric Weinsteins and the Sabine Hassenfelders, they should have debated me like a month ago or a year ago. I'm getting all the answers to their little gotcha questions they're going to ask me when we eventually do debate. They're going to go, well, it turns out the radiation reaction can explain the Lamb shift and the Casimir effect. How do you answer that, Ashton? And I'm going to go, well, I don't give a shit, because quantum electrodynamics requires the vacuum fluctuations to exist. You believe in quantum electrodynamics, right? Have you been on a plane? That's how I'm going to respond, chat. 100% just like that. Okay, here we
go. Decimal point of precision, quantum electrodynamics, well proven, but you need vacuum fluctuations for that theory to work. Does that say that vacuum fluctuations are real, or is it that's just the way our theory works? So, and people have measured like the interaction or between vacuum fluctuations and like electric fields, and they back out what the vacuum fluctuation is. Has anyone actually seen a vacuum fluctuation? I don't think so. But I think it's important to know that, that the fundamental aspect of that. And yet, like you said, I believe that vacuum fluctuations are real, and that we can use them. And and that's what I've been pursuing with my resonant tunneling diode work, where we can generate a force by creating an asymmetric situation where the vacuum fluctuations couple to the tunneling current in the diode, and that generates a force.
So let me jump.
So what was important? Charles Chase believes vacuum fluctuations are real and we can tap into them. And Charles Chase knew Ben Rich. That's all I need to hear. Ben Rich said we can take ET home. That's good enough for me. Charles Chase is 0.001% Lockheed Martin fellow engineer in the Revolutionary Technologies Division of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. That's plenty enough for me to know that this dude's on some alien type shit. 100%. I don't know if it comes with little green men or AI super intelligences. Doesn't really matter. He's on that shit. He's into it.
over to that. Since we're talking about vacuum fluctuation propulsion, that was the next slide. Casimir effect sets that up. And so I'm so pleased. Let me apologize for butting in there, but I'm so pleased that you're transitioning over to that, because this is your idea also. There are several people working on Casimir effect research. You're the only person I know of who is looking at utilizing some of this for vacuum fluctuation propulsion.
Right, right. And so, that has been a dream of many people over the years. There's been a lot of different concepts of how you can use the vacuum for generating forces. But I think we have something unique. And like I was saying, it works. You have what's called a resonant tunneling diode, which has a quantum well, which is, say a 2 nanometer little area that electrons tunnel through. So even though electrons don't have enough energy to actually pass through, because inside the diode, there's a voltage. And, and that voltage drives a current, but even at a level of voltage that's too high for the electrons to go through, they do what's called tunneling through. And so the vacuum fluctuations will couple to that tunneling current. And since you have this asymmetric situation with the potential, the voltage inside the diode, it creates a situation where the fluctuations move in a preferential direction, and that generates a momentum. Now,
okay, wow. So he says, we're going to use this electromagnetism on the tiniest scales, and we're going to create a quantum effect where our electrons are going to tunnel through a barrier they can't tunnel through. And when they do this, it's going to pull the 0 point energy with them. It's going to pull the 0 point energy with them. It's going to give us a force, a unidirectional force. Sounds like a goy beam to me, chat. I don't know about you. I'm not, I'm just a lowly healthcare IT guy. That sounds like a goy beam to me.
Again, back to, if you were going to ask a physicist, is that possible? They would say, no, hell no, you cannot do that. Because from some of our fundamental physics theories say that you can't. There's something called like a center of mass. So if you can't create momentum outside of a system, right? There's something called the stress energy tensor, which is from electromagnetics, where you integrate essentially all the forces around the body, and that always comes to 0. And then there's also energy considerations as well. Like, unless you're breaking time symmetry, you can't generate energy or forces. So all these fundamental physical laws that we have, and we call them laws, even though they're just what we think the way things work, so law is probably a lot of the words we use are crappy words. So even though it's a law, so hell no, you can't generate forces from a vacuum, and the vacuum fluctuations, according to quantum electrodynamics, the momentum of that in free space goes to 0 at all times everywhere, according to our theories.
So what's Charles Chase saying here? He's saying the NPCs don't get it. He's saying the people that haven't worked with the alien physics, they can't understand it. They say that you're cheating the laws of physics. You're breaking the laws of thermodynamics. That ain't possible. You can't do this. Well, what are they getting wrong? Because this is what I would have asked Charles Chase. I would have said, well, what are they getting wrong? Why are you right? And you know what he's going to say? Because the vacuum fluctuations are real. And the vacuum fluctuations can do work. We're not manipulating the actual object. We're manipulating the fluctuations that they don't think exist. The entire source of energy they don't think is even there. The same reason why they don't understand the ground state of the hydrogen atom. Because in their minds, their view is a atom that's in its perfect isolated state, not being disturbed, never running out of energy because it doesn't need to. But that's not really what's happening, is it? We have to go back to our initial preconceived notions about electromagnetism and reevaluate them. The A vector potential was left out. You may say, Ashton, what does this mean? What does it actually mean? What does it matter? It means there really is an extra dimension. It really means that what we think of as the lowest ground state is not actually the lowest. It means this energy, they think there's no energy there to be tapped. It means it's actually probably infinite energy to be tapped. Like infinite. And our material science is simply not at the level right now because we're cavemen, we're ants. Our material science is just not at the level right now where we can tap it efficiently, but we will. We will. We 100% will. And that's the other reason why I haven't built anything. The material science is not at the level, because to even fabricate microchips, you have to have an entire machine process, and it's all controlled or inadequate.
Now, I think.
Oh, sorry. Last thought on that microchip thing. Elon Musk knows this. This is why Elon Musk is making his huge, what does he call it? Terafab? Is that what it's called? He's been showing pictures of it. This is why Elon Musk is making his own microchip manufacturing, because he realizes that's the future. And if you want to have AI data center, you need the best microchips. And you're going to be having to make the better and better ones. And those are going to be the companies that are worth trillions.
That there's actually structure to the vacuum. In other words, yes, things actually can propagate through the vacuum and not sum to zero all the time. And I look at things like dark energy, which is the expansion of the universe is accelerating. In other words, there's a force making the universe expand faster. That's what our cosmological measurements tell us. And maybe that's someone else using the vacuum for something, and that's what we see is their vacuum trail, which is actually what we call dark energy. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, I hope that was
yeah, no, that's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely.
The dark energy shows the repulsive gravity. The physicists say the dark energy is how the universe accelerated faster than the speed of light. You say, oh, well, that's what we need for negative energy too. This is why the dark energy is 0 point energy. That's why he's bringing it up, by the way.
Wonderful. Let me jump over now to quantum noise power device. So this is actually one I came up with to kind of showcase Dr. Garrett Modell's patent, and his name and the patent number are in kind of small print there. So he is doing some really, really remarkable work. Again, he is aligned with what Dr. Harold Sonny White is doing, and you are more familiar with that work than probably anybody else in the world. So I wanted to just at least put this up and try and gather some of your comments on it. Again, this is the Casimir effect, but I believe they're trying to harness its energy in different ways, right?
Yeah.
This was the first free energy microchip that I found, Garrett Modell, that worked with Hal Puthoff. Here we go.
So, Garrett makes an optical cavity, or like a Casimir cavity, that's asymmetric. And so if you think about two cavities, one has a certain number of modes. So let me go back to Casimir. The modes, or the frequencies inside the cavity, are fewer than outside. So it generates a force that pushes it together. Now think of something that is held in place, and you have one cavity has a certain number of modes, and then you have another cavity that has fewer modes, and there's a pressure difference. And so that pressure difference in the vacuum causes a flow of electrons that through their circuit is generating electricity. And so, you can see in Garrett's papers and his patent that they've measured this, and they call it, to get the paper published, they couldn't call it vacuum fluctuation force. It's like a optical cavity force. I forget exactly what he calls it, but and so whether that's been able to be
so Garrett Modell, they had to change the name, and you can't call anything free energy over unity, anything like 0 point energy tapping, because then you'll get too much scrutiny. The way I've always understood Garrett Modell, at least from an analogy perspective, is like a trampoline. He has two cavities, and they have different properties. They're asymmetric. So the idea is you're squeezing the electrons into a cavity where their orbital shifts, just like we were explaining with the ground state of the hydrogen atom, squeeze the orbital, and then let the electron go to a different cavity and let it recover. And then repeat the process. And then because you're squeezing the electron orbital, you're pulling a little bit of energy out. That's it. That's the idea. So when you guys say, why don't you build something? I say, these guys are doing the thing that you're asking. You're saying, why don't I build something? I'm showing you the people that did build it. And they've been building it for 20 years. And there's been very little progress and advancement for reasons. Well, we talk about those reasons on other podcasts. Some of them interference, other situations, lack of commercial interest. Brainwashing is probably the number one thing holding people back. Garrett Modell gets no No mainstream interest whatsoever, even though he's got the experimental results. Oh, and the last thing I'll say on it, because a lot of you say, well, why aren't they trying harder to get their stuff out there? I've spoken to Garrett Modell. I wanted to promote his work. I want him to come on my show so I can promote his work. He's not interested. A lot of these guys also realize they're also NPCs. They look at content like this and they go, I can't ever be associated with Ashton Forbes. He's a brand risk. He'll bring my credibility down in the academic circles. That's how they actually think. Even Salvatore Pais thought about that a little bit in the beginning. If you go back to our first interviews, now he doesn't care anymore because people kind of get over it and they realize that stuff doesn't matter. That peer pressure, that pressure to conform to academic standards, none of that matters anymore. We're moving past that in this day and age. But think about that. That holds them back. They won't go on Danny Jones even. They won't, not only will they not go on my show, they won't go on someone even like Danny Jones because they consider it conspiracy slop. Charles Bueller would, and I think these people should go on. It's the only way they're going to get attention to their technology. And I think they shouldn't run away from the fact that they're free energy microchips. They are free energy microchips. They should scream it from the rooftop.
Replicated or not by others, I'm not really sure. So, I think Garrett would take his data and say, it looks really interesting, but those are really hard measurements to make because he's measuring really small currents. And, and then you have to worry about things like a chemical potential, like a battery, right? In a solid state object, you can have that sort of chemical potential that drives a small current for a super long time. Like there's a guy I know from Germany, Marcus Reed, that made the Reed cell. It's this thing, lights up a little diode out of material, and he thinks it's coming from the vacuum, but it could very well be just a, like a solid state battery that's generating a little bit of electricity. So, these measurements are super hard to make. And I think Garrett.
This is the other big point. It's really hard to accurately measure this because these things, we're talking very, very tiny scales. Nobody has the money to scale it up to a huge level. So they're doing this in tiny scales, and then you're measuring this and you're giving people room to doubt it. People are saying, well, it could just be air. This is what also holds it back. There's so many challenges that people don't realize when they just think, well, you made a free energy device, you should be a trillionaire. It's about 1,000 hurdles preventing that from happening. But it will.
Would talk about it like, yeah, looks like something, but I'm not, 100% sure.
Absolutely. So let me jump now to Dr. Harold Sonny White's patent. Again, his name and patent number on this slide and kind of fine print. This actually, I'm really pleased to be able to put these up back to back because a lot of people have asked what the difference is between Dr. Modell and Dr. White's patents, what they're attempting, I guess. And so these visualizations hopefully make that more clear for people. I did an interview with him. He had described hoping to achieve output comparable to a solar cell, except just like a solar cell, you can put those in parallel to generate more energy and hopefully stack those in 3D. So if his idea comes to fruition, like we're all hoping it will, potentially this could be true 0-point energy in our lifetime, right?
Right. So, Sonny is also taking advantage of vacuum fluctuation pressure in an asymmetric situation to generate that pressure so that the vacuum is not uniform inside his device. And he used something called the world line method for predicting this, which you can use to predict the vacuum fluctuations. And
am I the only one that thought the world line was like some Secret of Mana or like Chrono Trigger thing? I was pretty sure that was like a video game thing, the world lines. But okay, whatever. I'm sorry, I digress.
I remember when he made his first world line calculations. I've known Sonny for a long time, since my days at the Skunk Works, and he participated in all our advanced propulsion and energy things. I consider Sonny a good friend, just like Garrett, I think is a really good friend as well. But when he showed his first world line predictions of the vacuum between a sphere and a plate, and I'm like, look at that, the pressure, it's non-uniform. We should be able to use that. And so, yeah, he's off and running, and, hats off to him. I know they've raised a decent amount of money.
So what did he just say right there? Probably the most important part. He said when he saw Sonny White's results with his sphere and the plates, he saw a non-uniform pressure differential. And he said, oh, we can use that. What does he mean there? He's saying, I'm seeing an asymmetry. I'm seeing a waterfall that we can tap into, that we can pull energy from. So in theory, if that's legit, this looks like a good candidate for tapping the quantum fluctuations. And what are you realizing here is that it's starting to become indistinguishable when we're talking about tapping for free energy or tapping to make a gravity beam, propulsion device, GOI beam. Why? Because the two concepts are the same. When you pull 0-point energy out of the medium, you get energy and you also get propulsion, the dark energy, the reverse gravity.
I think $12 million for their latest raise to try to turn this into a product. And, you know, I think Cam, who is, you know, he's a great guy from NASA that, you know, an entrepreneur that funds a lot of these space things. You know, he funded the Limitless Space Institute. Hats off to Cam for supporting this type of breakthrough work and enabling like Sonny to actually go and try to make this real. But again, I would say, you know, these measurements are super hard to make. So,
yeah,
you know, I can't comment on how valid the data is. I have not seen his latest data, you know, so proof is always in the pudding, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, these are hard measurements to make.
And this is what I would say. Here's my comments on this. My comments on this, and by the way, where I learned it, you can watch my live streams and you can figure out where I learned pretty much everything that I've learned. In addition to the books that I've shared with you guys, but then a lot more scientific papers. But what you need to learn is intuitive. You don't need to learn a bunch of equations. You need to learn how the universe works. The universe is a giant energy cycle. The thing I would teach you here is be careful. Every single one of these microchips could fail. Every single one of them could fail. Garrett Modells, Paul Thibodeau, Sonny Whites, they could all fail. None of this is guaranteed. None of this is guaranteed. And I say that as somebody who believes unequivocally that we can tap 0-point energy and get free energy. Because number one, this is very difficult. Number two, it's very difficult to measure and be sure that you have something that's real. And number three, it's very difficult to get to market, to get to commercial level without some interference, foreign sabotage, our own government shutting you down. There's about a million things that can go wrong at any given point in time. And that's why I think Charles Chase is being standoffish here. Why he's not all in, because he knows it's theoretically possible and it can all work. He's just saying, look, I don't know what's going to happen here.
And hopefully, but I would say the three things that we've talked about, my resonant tunneling diode forces, Garrett's optical cavities, and Sonny's Casimir power cell here, they're all based on the same sort of thing of trying to create asymmetry in the vacuum and being able to use that to do work, either a force or generate a current.
Absolutely. So I have a few more. I do not want to fall into PowerPoint syndrome, but I will jump through these really quick. While I was working on this, I thought I would just do some visualizations. And, you know, since we're putting this up as video, if folks want to drill down on this, they could probably just pause and take a look at it. But, you know, there was how the quantum vacuum could produce a force. And then after that, Unlab's two proposed vacuum force experiments. And, you know, definitely feel free to stop me if you want to comment on any of these. I'm just kind of scrolling through here.
Sure. Okay. I'll say something about the rotating nanoparticle, which is...
Pay attention to this. I am Ashton Kutcher. Yes, I am. I'm better than Ashton Kutcher, bitch. I'm Ashton motherfucking Four Orbs. By the way, this nanoparticle thing right here, this right here is how you destroy the ground state of the hydrogen atom deniers. Why? Because he's about to explain right here that the tiniest particles, that the Brownian motion should set the tiniest particles to begin spinning, to begin rotating, to begin moving. So if we live in this medium of energy, then these particles absolutely have to be spinning, even on the small scales. It's not just quantum spin. There's an actual real physical element to it.
The work I did with Jim Jeski from UCLA and Xiangwei Fan at Stanford under a DARPA contract. And we showed that if you have a non-reciprocal nanoparticle, in this case, a gyrotropic particle, it will start rotating on its own from the thermal difference. So the difference in fluctuations are not from the vacuum. They're from the difference in the fluctuations of a thermal situation. And it'll cause the particle to rotate on its own up to a really super fast speed. So we proposed to do an experiment to show that and design an experiment, but never got the funding to do that. But that was a really very interesting project.
A rotating nanoparticle just from the Brownian motion, just from the thermal fluctuations, will go up to an extremely high speed. Wow. Yeah. Looking at that, that to me says that he's at least, I think, speaking to this idea that this spin could be inherent and be naturally occurring from physics and nature.
So I think, I've
absolutely.
talked about the resonant tunneling diode already.
Okay, so now I'm going to go over to coherent matter wave laser. Again, this is just kind of a drill down on what you already described, right? And,
Right.
You know, if people want to stop and zoom in, they'll get a little bit more detail about what it is and why it matters. Again, you have this patented, and this is one of those big ideas that is just so compelling. It is so compelling. Then we have evidence ladder from physics to proposed engineering. And let me see, 3 routes to vacuum engineering. From piconewtons to propulsion. I know I'm zooming through these way too fast for anybody to take a look. And then I also wanted to put in some bio stuff because, again, you are a rock star, sir. So this kind of goes through your history. I mean, you know, nobody else has this collection.
Look at my dude's history, chat. It's like UC Berkeley, 1985, 1986, Lockheed Martin. Okay, 2018, now I'm at the Unlab. That's it? That's your whole resume? One job, and then you started your own like non-for-profit? This guy, he's got the resume of somebody who's definitely been inside some alien spaceships, chat. If there are alien spaceships in Area 51 or whatever, or Lockheed Martin's got them, Charles Chase knows every single panel on that bad boy.
Of incredible scientific engineering breakthrough experience that you do.
Yeah,
so
thank you. So I just, one comment on this is the little thing down there about culture, which I'm not sure people can read, but I'm sure when they zoom in, they can. I think that's really important to me, is to create an environment of what I say is joy and ease. And because, you know, that's how people, when people do their best, and, you know, kind of to enable creatives to be creative, right? I think is really important. So the culture,
absolutely.
the environment you create kind of turns into the work that comes out.
Yeah.
And look at his attitude. That's the kind of attitude you need for somebody who's going to lead some projects on doing gravity manipulation. You have to have this open attitude where everybody can express their ideas, where you can think outside the box. Like, he's the perfect leader. I've been in the corpo dead-end job world for like 20 years. And I've seen it. I've seen multiple different managers and all of it. Charles Chase is the full package. He's absolutely the guy that's going to be the one that's going to lead the project to give you the plasma orbs that can teleport space-time. Like, there's not a lot of people can be that guy. He is one of very few that I've ever seen.
Yeah. So now I want to go to your PowerPoint, and let me thank you for sending this to me. This is actually more technically accurate than kind of my slideshow. If it's okay, I'll just kind of scroll through this. This is the one that you had sent over. And again, this will be up on the screen for folks. So there's some background. This is one that you was
Pause chat. Pause chat. Full screen. Maximum screenage. I'm seeing Skunkworks chat. I'm seeing fusion reactor chat on the right. Hot compact fusion chat. Is there a hope? Is there a hope? I was watching this, and I kid you not, true story. I text messaged Tim Ventura and I said, did he say that you can't ask about fusion? Because I'm pretty sure I thought he couldn't ever talk about it. Let's find out.
Assembled.
Yeah, I
And
just,
again, just
if you don't mind me commenting just a little bit about some of the, a thing that I worked on at Lockheed is this new approach to hot compact fusion. It was an
Here we go, baby. Hot compact fusion. Okay, let me scroll back. Sorry, I ruined it. I ruined the surprise.
if you don't mind me commenting just a little bit about some of the, a thing that I worked on at Lockheed is this new approach to hot compact fusion. It was an idea of Dr. Tom McGuire. And again, that was to provide energy for everyone. We thought we could use it to fly an airplane as well. So imagine an airplane that would never have to refuel because you have a fusion generator on board. And so that was, I'm not sure, it was still going when I retired. I'm not sure. They've said publicly that they've stopped work on it, but you never know with the skunk works, what they're really doing. So I don't.
What? You never know with the skunk works what they're really doing? That's from a dude who was the director of the Revolutionary Technologies Division of the Skunk Works saying that. It was still going when I left. I heard they stopped, but I don't really know. Guys, chat. Do you think that they stopped a project that was going to let airplanes fly forever without ever having to refuel? Do you think that would be like maybe a competitive advantage for airplanes? That they can fly forever without fuel, like Charles Chase literally just said? I don't think they scrapped that project. You know what? If I'm an investor of Lockheed Martin and they scrap the project that allows planes to fly forever, I'm going to be pretty upset. I'm going to be a little bit angry. Feel like we might have given up one that we could have used there. Oh, and by the way, Lockheed Martin recently, just a year ago, said that they've developed some magical, quote their words, magical technology that's a game changer that they can't talk about right now. Could be anything. Could be fusion. Could be not. This is going to be the worst kept secret. This is like trying to keep Robert Downey Jr. being Doom, Dr. Doom secret. These guys are trying to keep fusion secret, and like it's going to be, everybody's going to already know. They're going to come out, Lockheed Martin's going to come out in 2028, and they're going to be like, we figured out fusion, everybody. And we're going to be like, yeah, everybody knows. Ashton Forbes figured it out that you had figured it out like 10 years ago. Jeez, chat. Okay. By the way, did I say I love this man? Because I do, chat. Just platonically. In a very plutonic and natural, obsessive, stalkerish kind of way. By the way, I'm the president of the Charles Chase fan club. Y'all can fight me for that. Brand risk.
I don't know where that project is. And I just want to say most of my engineering work, I've done a lot of work on stealth technology, multispectral stealth technology. Anyway.
What did he just say? Hold up. Monka S chat. What did he just say? What did he say he does at Lockheed Martin?
They've stopped work on it, but you never know with the skunk works, what they're really doing. So I don't know where that project is. And I just want to say most of my engineering work, I've done a lot of work on stealth technology, multispectral stealth technology.
Multi-spectral stealth technologies. Chat, this was a rabbit hole. Not going to lie to you. Went down like a 3-hour rabbit hole reading scientific papers about multispectral stealth technology, and it was a mind-blowing experience. I've now come to the conclusion that some of the UFOs we're seeing are using advanced stealth technologies to make them invisible in mid-range infrared, far-range infrared, whatever the various infrareds, and visual. all at the same time. All at the same time. And what they say they're trying to do is make it so that the temperature, the thermal heat that these objects give off, they're trying to make it uniform. And I think about this and I look and I go, wait a minute. So if I'm looking at this object that's covered in this advanced stealth technology, it's just going to look like a blob. It's just going to look like a blob, especially in the infrared, because the whole point is they're trying to make the light bend entirely around it. They're trying to make it so that you can't see this thing in any spectrum, in any of the predator visions or any of the other visions. Interesting. So what I like about this exactly cloaking technology, who said it? Nancy. Gold star for you, Nancy, today. Because some of these UFOs are going to be using advanced cloaking technology. Some of them are potentially fusion reactors and gravity manipulations, and some of them are also just using advanced cloaking technologies. So now we've added a new tool in our tool bank, in our arsenal, when we are analyzing UFO videos. Charles Chase just gave us the missing piece, which also tells you, by the way, Charles Chase knows exactly about those MH370 videos. Exactly about them. The dude is literally, his job was multi-spectral stealth. And we're looking at some plasma orbs in an EO-IR color feed. Of course he knows what we're looking at. That dude, if he could speak freely, he would probably do like a 2-hour lecture on those videos and exactly what they show. Okay, sorry. Let's go on.
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, well, and it's fair to say, again, a lot of that stuff we can't talk about, but that is
Right.
totally cool. Yeah, it goes to your background. It's that gestalt of knowledge, right? So then you also did have kind of a drill down. So this is actually kind of our third slide on phase-controlled matter beam. But again, yours is definitely more technically accurate, and you had some stuff, the Kuramoto synchronization. You've got some stuff in that is
Yeah, so that's
meaningful.
the secret sauce, is this using the vector potential to change the phase of the matter waves without any energy exchange. So the vector potential.
Chat, we are fucking back. We are back, baby. Did Charles Chase say that's the secret sauce? Were those the exact words that just came out of Charles Chase's mouth? Hold on, did you guys just hear what I just said and said, hey, it's all about getting these things in phase and twisting the phase of the beam? Hold on, let's just go back. Woo, what did you just say, chat? Pay attention. Get your clips ready, chat. Get your clips ready.
Accurate, and you had some stuff, the Kuramoto synchronization. You've got some stuff in that is
So that's
meaningful.
the secret sauce, is this using the vector potential to change the phase of the matter waves without any energy exchange. So the vector potential is actually more fundamental than the fields, the magnetic field and the electric field. Actually, the vector potential is the source of all that, and the vector potential can exist with no fields being present. And when that vector potential is there, it changes the phase of things with no energy exchange. It's called the Aronoff bomb effect. And that's what you need to get these particles that normally don't want to be in phase to get in phase. So that's the secret sauce right there.
Okay. So I'm going to scroll down.
Okay. Yeah, a little better than okay. That's Charles Chase just fact-checking my post, saying, yeah, we're using the A vector potential. The A vector potential can change the phase of matter waves using the Aronoff Bohm effect. That the A vector potential is literally the secret sauce. It's literally the secret sauce. You heard it right out of the man's mouth himself, Charles Chase. I would have fallen out of my chair if I was interviewing Charles Chase and he said that to me. Literally fallen out of my chair and wondered what reality I'm in that I'm hearing such words. Holy crap. Wow. Whew. Okay.
Down now to Casimir force. And again, we're just running through a lot of the stuff that we've already covered, doing it in more detail and with different visualizations. So again, this is something that you have gone through several times.
Yes.
Okay, and let me see. Actually, you had mentioned this, you highlighted this. You're saying it doesn't prove the existence of vacuum fluctuations, but quantum theory requires it. That's kind of an interesting aside there.
Right. That is pretty interesting. And you know, and then this information on the right there about the vacuum energy of free space, which that's dark energy, 10 to the -9 joules per cubic meter, and QED predicts that it would be 10 to the what is that, 113, so 120 orders of magnitude off from what we measure versus what we predict. So something is wrong there. And if you think about how much energy density from the vacuum is over the visible spectrum in your eye, it's a huge amount of energy, and yet it doesn't, you know, our eye doesn't burn up. So, you know, that's kind of interesting too. But, you know, the most important thing I think here is that there's a new simplifying conception that, you know, this idea of particles and things like that interacting is really wrong, because it's the interaction itself. There are no, without an interaction, there isn't anything. So, and you can look at
wait, chat. I emailed Charles Chase like a year ago, and I read the email on the live stream. Read it on the live stream, and it was something about there are no independent things. Everything is an interaction. You guys remember that? If you guys don't remember that, think back. Recall that. Bring that info back. I think it's going to be really familiar in a second. Before we get to that, though, I want to read a little bit on the screen here. He says, the vacuum catastrophe is in the top right. In the top right of this slide, it shows the difference between the energy that we can measure of the vacuum, which is almost nothing, and the energy that quantum mechanics says should be in the vacuum, which is roughly 120 orders of magnitude difference. And then here's a quote. Both radiation reaction and the vacuum electromagnetic field are required for the consistency of quantum field theory and atom field interactions. Right there. Atom field interactions require the vacuum fluctuations. So when people come to you and say, no, the atom is just like this frozen quantum state that's perfectly stable, that doesn't ever change, you say, yeah, that doesn't really work with quantum electrodynamics. You have to have vacuum fluctuations. It has to be in this Royalian sea of energy for that to work. I really like this, though, that the experimental confirmation of the Casimir effect does not establish the reality of 0-point fluctuations, because Casimir forces can be calculated without reference to the vacuum. This would have definitely caught me in a debate, but now it won't anymore. Okay.
Quantum electrodynamics, it's the correlation functions, which are two things interacting together, that really give you the scattering amplitudes and the physics solutions. So even quantum electrodynamics, and you know, someone who knows that quantum QED will go, oh yeah, of course, it's only interactions. But so we do ourselves a disfavor by thinking about separate things. Like you and I are not really separate right now. We're actually, you know, interacting, and therefore part of me is actually you, and part of you is me. You know, it's the interaction is what's fundamental, the interaction, not the separate things. There's nothing separate ever at any time. Anyway, thanks for letting me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm pleased as punch to have you with me today. I'm just going to go down.
He just said the exact thing that he sent me in the email. There are no separate interactions. Everything is an interaction. The whole thing. He just did the whole spiel, chat. I think it was exactly verbatim. I haven't read it in a while. It's been like a year. I think it was exactly verbatim that he just said right there. Let me just go back like 30 seconds. We're not going to go the whole thing, but
is what's fundamental, the interaction, not the separate things. There's nothing separate ever at any time. Anyway, thanks for letting me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I'm
the exact same thing. It's like he just copy and pasted it out of there. Does he tell everybody that? I've never heard him say that other than when he said it to us. Chat. Charles Chase, send me your energy. Send me your energy, Charles Chase. I need it.
Please, it's punch to have you with me today. I'm just going to go down here to what is required by physics to generate forces from vacuum fluctuations. Again, you were drilling down into the Casimir effect and this vacuum energy. One of the things that I love about your work is you're going down to the level of that emerging science, and you're saying, hey, how can we turn this into products that do things in the real world? You know? And so,
so, you know, this is just kind of covers in detail the point I was making before. Our physical theories say, no, you cannot do anything with the vacuum. Absolutely not. You can't generate a current. You can't generate a force. You can't do anything unless you break symmetry or you have a non-equilibrium situation. So that, you know, that's so what we're trying to do, you know, Garrett, Sonny, myself, other people out there, goes against the dogma of what science believes.
Okay. So go down to asymmetric fluctuation flow force, and we're going even deeper in the physics. Again, I appreciate your sending this to me so much. It's wonderful to see the visualizations that you have in here as well. I think this gives,
you know, kind of micron scale, and it bends with a force. So you can measure gravity, for example. There, it's super sensitive, and this is doing work with Jim Jimjeski from UCLA. Excuse me, don't mind him. So anyway, so you know, this is just some pictures of the samples that we've made, and we use something called a white light interferometer to measure the deflection of that cantilever. So we were really excited. Some of the first data we had.
So this cantilever, what his experiment is here, is a cantilever is just like a bar that can bend. And all he's trying to do here is see if he can make the bar bend. Why? Because that's a force, and we can use that force for propulsion. Simple, right?
You know, it went down as it should with gravity, the cantilever. And then the ones with the asymmetric structures went in the other direction. And we're like, shit, it's working. But we found out, unfortunately, that there was some stresses in the cantilever from the deposition of the structures that was, you know, messing up the data. So
it's how I'm trying not to be full conspiratard, but every single time there was a deformation that was messing up the data. We would have had proof that we can manipulate gravity, but turned out there was just happened to be a problem with the data. We had to throw it out. I'm starting to wonder if like some of these problems with the data might not be a little bit organized. That's all I'm saying.
We couldn't come to a solid conclusion. So we're making new structures. Actually, with Sandia National Labs is building some structures for us that we're going to be measuring pretty shortly here.
They couldn't come to any conclusions. Chat. They couldn't come to any conclusions, but Sandia National Labs is building some new ones for them. One of the main Department of Energy labs, Sandia Labs, is building new ones for Charles Chase. You guys are like, hey, Ashton, why aren't you building anything? Because I don't have connections to Sandia National Labs to build me some nano microchip thingamajigs. I mean,
okay. Well, and so one of the takeaways that I have from that, as well as what you said earlier, is these are.
But the point is, do you see how they can control it? Because if you really boil it down, you say, okay, well, why don't people just build this? You realize like the means of manufacturing this stuff is all controlled, and it's controlled by the government. The government controls the microchip manufacturing process. They control all the high energy physics, all the fusion physics. It's like no wonder we haven't been able to get it out. They control all the easy pathways where anyone could actually build something that would be indisputably real.
Difficult to test because you're dealing with such incredibly tiny, sensitive things, right?
Yes, right. And there's always confounding things, right? So you have to worry about other fields interfering with it, or all sorts of things you have to worry about that looks like a signal but is really something else, that's confounding and messing up your data.
Okay, let me scroll down to, let me see, I think we're at page 8 of 13 here. Fluctuation flow propulsion changes the game. So this actually shows, basically you were looking and comparing kind of the curves for a bunch of different.
I'm going to just explain this part in the interest of time to skip ahead a few minutes here. But if you look at this, he's showing all the different types of propulsion. We've actually seen this graph a lot. because we've been reviewing fusion, and fusion is the most efficient way other than antimatter matter propulsion, which isn't really within the realm of material science at this point. So what happens though when we do look at vacuum fluctuations, when we look at pulling energy out of the vacuum, how does the efficiency compare? It's infinite. The star on the top right is more efficient than any other energy mechanism or propulsion mechanism. It potentially approaches infinite efficiency. When it comes to an ISP perspective, which is how much propulsion you get out of the net input, it approaches infinite, if it isn't infinite. That's how big this is. This is why it's hidden. This right here is exactly why this technology is hidden, because it's not just a game changer. It's literally free energy. It obsoletes every form of propulsion that exists. And the only reason why you're even using fusion is because you need some form of energy generation that exists in our three-dimensional reality. That's the only reason why you're even doing fusion. It's the most efficient form of energy generation that you can use in our three-dimensional reality without using vacuum fluctuations. And this is why I love the idea of catalyzed fusion, vacuum catalyzed fusion, as Douglas Miller, I believe, has coined it. Is that the moment you figured out vacuum fluctuation, how to harness that energy, the system you want to create is one that utilizes fusion as the intermediary.
Types of propulsion systems. I see pulsed fusion, antimatter, continuous fusion, as well as many others, right? And so how does vacuum fit into this?
Yeah, so our predicted the amount of force we can generate, which is 9 newtons per kilogram with an array of these devices. And you can see some other from Mike McCulloch.
Energy generation. And I see a few of those have been at the APEC conference. So I'm absolutely pleased to see that. The EM drive is there, as well as some of the stuff that NASA or Sunny has done at NASA. So it's absolutely amazing.
Right. And so it's people have been after propellantless propulsion and generating energy. There's the quantized inertia from Mike McCulloch. I know he's been at your Saturday thing that you
Mike McCulloch gets a shout out.
Do, and Jim Woodward with his piezoelectric device, and Brandenburg with some coupling of electromagnetics with gravity, and then Charles
Woodward, Brandenburg,
Charles Bueller with his asymmetric capacitor.
Charles Bueller was just on Danny Jones with Andrew. I think he goes by Drew. They're all legit.
Sonny with his asymmetric cavity, and now the Casimir battery, and Garrett's work there you could see as well. But other people then try to replicate these things. And so, for example, there's Professor Tamar at Dresden, who specializes in this advanced propulsion. He's had null results for all this. He tries to test all this stuff. The Naval Research Lab, George Hathaway, others. None of this has been replicated. So what gives? What is up with that? I mean, people, with the EM drive measure forces, and then other people claim it's, from interference from.
So this is really important, right? We want to know, what is his perception on why can't it be replicated? Why is George Hathaway showing null results on all this stuff when he's testing it, when it's got to be real? So what's someone doing? What are they doing wrong exactly? And this right here is another big point, the Pais effect. What is the Pais effect? It is electrically charged matter under rapid acceleration, transients, or vibration. If I think about that, I think Salvatore Pais is basically trying to put the Pais effect. He's trying to name how you condition the A vector potential, because that's how you do it, right? Electrically charged matter. That's how we're going to produce our coherent A vector potential.
From thermal effects or electromagnetic, and like what Charles Bueller is doing, those measurements are really hard to make because you always have to give us the results we expect, because we bake in.
So
really hard to measure. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And so then some of the other things.
Yeah. So, what I really like to say, like I said, our physics models say, nope, can't do that. But the models we have give us the results we expect, because we bake in our observations. And so, they're baked in to make sure we observe that things are what's called Lorentz invariant, or that energy is conserved, right? That's what we've observed so far. So we make sure that the models give us that answer.
This is essentially Charles Chase saying the only reason why we're not seeing it is because we're not doing the types of experiments that unlock gravity. We're not doing those high energy physics experiments. We're not at the smallest scale level in the microchips yet. Our lasers aren't at the powerful enough level yet where they're able to easily manipulate space-time. But once we do that, these assumptions, laws of physics, are now going to have to be better understood. That's what Charles Chase is saying here. And the fact that he does it in this way tells you that he knows. It tells you that he knows, and this is his way of trying to break through the psychological conditioning. He's going, guys, these laws of physics, they're not the be-all, end-all.
There was that source of energy. Screwed if you're wrong about something, right? There goes your that we have.
Yeah, well, and so
extraordinary
experiences.
And you gotta, if you're a professor at a university, the worst thing in the world is to be wrong about something. You are screwed if you're wrong about something, right? There goes your reputation. So they're all really careful, and
what did I tell you guys? They're careful. They're scared. The academics are scared. Their reputation. If they're wrong, their reputation is ruined. This is why they don't want to come on this show. This is why they're afraid to come out and speak about their free energy microchips. They don't want to get dogpiled. They don't want to get ruined. They don't want to get their reputations destroyed. They don't want to get Pons and Fleischman.
It's the system. The outcome of the system is what the system is designed to do, in a way. There's that old system engineering saying, the system is what the system does. So, the university system, academic system, is designed that way, and that's the result we get. And so, I've always been just trying to push on that and enable people to think, out of the box. Saying it sounds so trite, but to think of in different ways and about different.
This is what happens when you've been red-pilled. This is what happens when you've been red-pilled and then you've been black-pilled. And now you're just basically clear-pilled. You reach the point where you're like, I just want to try to break through this psychological barrier that I didn't know existed. Where Charles Chase knows we got some alien technology, but he realizes that all these barriers for people to accept it, the academic roadblocks that people put in the way, the mind blocks people block themselves, we have to break through that. He's a better man than I, chat. Now I'm going to skip ahead to a certain part that I really like right up about here.
I know, Garrett does study this kind of psi effect as part of his magnetometer that's buried, and is
possible. This is a great note to probably end our slideshow on. I think we have one more after this, but this is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, heavier than air flying machines, right? The airplane, they said that was impossible forever, and then it happened, right? I mean, rockets.
Redditors and debunkers and my biggest fans, aka my haters. I see some of y'all in the chat. I love you the most. I want you to listen up closely to what Charles Chase, because this is my favorite slide. This is always my favorite slide right here. Heavier than air flying machines are impossible by Lord Kelvin. Do you guys believe that heavier than air flying machines are impossible? Have you been on a plane? Chat. Turns out all the science bosses of the old day, we call it, Kelvin, as in the temperature, Kelvin, named after him. Boom! Turns out he was a bitch, chat. Oh, look, what did the New York Times say? A rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. 1936. 1936, the New York Times was printing that a rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. Boom! Bitchified, chat.
Let me see.
So yeah, I love this one from Peter Debye, who is a Nobel laureate, visited George Hellmeyer, who was working at RCA. And Peter Debye told Hellmeyer that liquid crystal displays would never work. He had all these reasons why it wouldn't work. Well, Hellmeyer couldn't tell him. He already had it working in the lab, but it was proprietary. So he couldn't talk about it. So here's a Nobel laureate telling George Hellmeyer, he's a famous DARPA guy as well, that the thing that he already had working wouldn't work. And then I hear guys like this.
Chat, LED screens are fake news, chat. Who said that LED screens were real? Turns out they've been debunked, chat. Sorry. You thought your LED TV screen was real? It's not, I'm afraid. George Hellmeyer or Peter Dubai, chat. He was a Nobel Prize winner. He debunked it. He said it couldn't be done. Obviously, they're not real. Obviously, they've been debunked. Whew. But the best one of all, what we're here for, chat. This is the main event. Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll of Caltech never gets to live this quote down.
Sean Carroll, who I don't know, he taught physics at Caltech.
Inject this shit. Freebase this shit. Inject this directly into my veins. Here we go.
And this quote, I'm just going to read it. There's something called a warp drive. There are extra dimensions. There's a Casimir effect. There's dark energy. All these things are true. But there's zero chance, that anyone in our lifetimes or the next 1,000 years are going to build anything that makes use of any of these ideas for defense purposes or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. God, he really sounds full of himself and so self-assured. I'm really tired of self-assured people that think they fucking know everything.
I completely agree with you. We live in a time.
Chat. Did Charles Chase just swear? My virgin ears, chat. A curse word, chat. From the goat? From the pure, white, untouched, innocent goat? Chat, obviously, my man needs to go and throw some ice cubes into his bathtub. It's very sad, chat. The postpartum depression, it impacts men as well. What you just heard is not Charles Chase. That's not his normal self. That's not his normal loving self, chat. He just needs to go fill a bowl up with some ice cubes, head up to his bathroom, set up his camera, turn on his TikTok videos, film himself throwing some ice into the tub, chat, and then he'll be back. But no, in all seriousness, wow, really tells you Charles Chase. I think he likes what we're doing here, chat. I think he needs a little anger translator. I'm afraid that Darth Four Orbs has retired for the time being. Dark Ashton not making an appearance right now. But if a certain person were to request it, he might be able to come out of retirement. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Sir Charles Chase.
We have self-driving electric cars on the roads. We have rockets that land themselves on the pad in the middle of the ocean, right?
Right.
And we have AI writing poetry. I mean, these are mind-blowing things.
Yeah,
and I never
right.
would have anticipated them.
Right. Anyway.
So I think
the experts always say it's not going to work. And yet this is the world, this is the universe we live in. Each one of these spots, almost every one except that one, is a galaxy. It's a separate galaxy with billions of stars in each one. It's like, what an amazing place we find ourselves in.
Absolutely.
And to think we know everything and have created everything is really foolish.
Okay, well, Charles, I think that was it for our slideshow, but I'm happy to kind of run through things more with you. So again, you are right now, to kind of bring things back from these giant.
In chat, that's why he's the GOAT, chat. You know what? I think I'm going to stop it there. I don't remember any super relevant stuff from the end questions. But that's why he's the GOAT. Because he knows all the free energy microchips. He knows all the engineers. He's worked on that alien technology before with Lockheed. He's working on the multispectral stealth technologies that they have. And he also dunks on the academics. He explains why the academics are wrong and their mindset that they have that denies the reality of this physics. It really scares me because I think back to that Obama clip. Did I play that clip on live stream? I think I did. If not, I'll play it right now.
What's it doing? Electricity, Mr. President, obviously. Why is it locked up in a place like this? We could be out there in the world doing good.
It'll happen when you're ready.
When I'm ready.
When the world is ready, Mr. President.
Doesn't it feel like that's exactly it? When the world is ready. This all feels like when the world is ready, some stuff going on here where we don't even really have control of this. That there's like some higher power that is already established exactly when this gets revealed in the future. And it has to do with some moral, cultural, societal understanding or level that we have to reach. And people like Charles Chase seem to be aware of this, and they're doing their best to chip away at it to get us a little bit closer to that time when we will be ready. That's what it feels like is happening. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening, but that's what it feels like is happening to me. Put your comments in the chat, or in the comments in the video. Let me know what you think of the live stream, guys. I hope you enjoyed it tonight. Let's go to the super chats. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and enjoying and watching our watch party here for Charles Chase. Carrie Lake in the pill chat, thank you very much for that cookie. And thank you, everybody, from the Woke Society's raid. I got to figure out how to raid people so I can raid other people back. Thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate you guys. Rumble chat. K Sierra, nice to see you guys. Adult Rumbler, or a Dutch Rumbler, nice to see you hanging out tonight. SM Ashbaws, always hanging out as usual. Appreciate all you guys in the Rumble chat. YouTube, Bar T Welding. Thank you so much for that super chat, Bar T Welding. Appreciate you, Matt Bartleson. You the bomb. Dobby with a Throbby, welcome back. Dobby with a Throbby says, repeal the 19th Amendment. Now, I've said this before. I'm not a bigot. I am willing to give up my vote. Give up my constitutional rights so that Candace Owens is not allowed to vote. This proves that I'm not a bigot. Proves that it's not about being a woman. It's just about not letting stupid people make decisions. Just so happens, a lot of them seem to be women. Bada bing, bada boom. Don't at me, chat. I love the ladies. Chat, not all ladies, not all women are candy cultees. Not all of them. Only, look, the 99% make the other 1% look bad. Remember that, chat. Devos, holy smokes, $100 super chat. We eating good tonight. Devos says, your streams will go down in history. You disclosed free energy in the greatest conspiracy of all time to the masses. Keep going, brother. It's actually 100% true. Name me one conspiracy bigger than they're hiding literal free energy and teleportation, and they teleported a Boeing 777. Honestly, just the teleporting a plane thing is probably the biggest conspiracy ever, let alone mixing that with the real missing plane and a mystery related to that and free energy on top of that. It's honestly, I used to say this a lot, it's too much. The reason why people couldn't believe MH370 is it's just too much. The alien people, the people that are like, well, I'm getting anally probed by aliens on the reg. Even those people are like, nah, man, teleporting airplanes is too much for me, bro. They're going, look, I can get psionically raped by a little blue alien, but you tell me that we're teleporting planes, that is crazy, bro. That is crazy. Yeah. That's when I realized we got a long way to go. This is not going to be a quick road, chat, to the solution to the mystery, end of the mystery. Devos, thank you so much, brother, for that huge super chat. Joy is Rossum. Please look up Dr. Jack Cruz and Light. Yeah, I think I have looked him up before. I am familiar. Also, I did email Dan Winter. It is kind of my fault. I forgot to follow up with him for like several weeks, as you guys know. But I am going to try to get in touch with him. And we may be getting the holy connection. Joseph P. Farrell responded, and he didn't reject it. Now, we have some scheduling conflicts that we have to work out, so no promises. But I'm going to try to get the gang together, chat. Could you imagine if we could get Joseph P. Farrell, Salvatore Pais, and Jason Giorgiani on a live stream together? I'm going to try to make it happen. I might even have to take time off to make it happen, but I'll let you guys know. More to come. More to come. Jay Florex. Guys, I just realized that StreamYard doesn't get the super stickers. I think some of these are like super stickers with like emojis. I'm embarrassed to say, if you've been sending me super stickers on YouTube and have little pictures and they're not showing up, I just found out I got too much boomer in me. But thank you so much for the super stickers and the chat and the super chats. Love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Jay Florex. Appreciate both of those. Voice for Good says crappy words, big on appropriate terms in context. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Jalil Robinson with the super sticker. No one knows what it looks like. Could be a little man with a smiley face. Could be a little cat waving. Appreciate you, dude. Appreciate you. D-Red Max. I forget how you say whatever. You get my point. Dread Max T-Rax. I think that's how you say it. Thanks, Ash. And no, thank you, brother. And then Stojan. Wait, did it crash? Oh, there it goes. Stojan says, it makes you wonder whether a variant of the technology used on MH370 was used in 9/11. Now, I'm not really a 9/11 truther or anything like that. I'm on the record saying I'm full-on Fed slop conspiratard believer or non-conspiratard believer when it comes to 9/11. But, yeah, it does make you wonder. Actually, this technology existing makes you wonder a lot of situations. Because now there's a lot of other plausible explanations for things that have happened. Now, what I would say on this front to Stojan, don't fall down the conspiracy rabbit hole. It's very easy to see that this technology is real and then start to believe that every single thing is conspiracy. Very easy. In fact, we have to be more diligent, more skeptical, more debunker than we were before now that we know this technology is real. We have to hold ourselves to even a higher standard for believing a conspiracy, believing a cover-up, believing the Goy beams were deployed. Thank you all for hanging out tonight. We'll be back on Monday, guys, with another live stream. I'll have some more content for you guys this weekend coming out. Have a great night, MH370X. Love you guys. Peace out, everybody.
In the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravity gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism, plates so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plate, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound, a shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy. Travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.